Yeah, sure. What's the plan? When do we talk to your old man? Sly said. He and Mom are out of town. They will be back late tomorrow night. I'll talk to him as soon as he gets home or first thing the next morning. I'll tell him you'll be over about 10 o'clock Monday to help explain exactly what and how this happened and to get your money. Let me see your cell phone, Sly said. My cell? Why? I want to double check your phone number in case I have to call you before I come. Bernie pulled up the phone number on the screen and showed it to him. The pale light from the phone reflected off Sly's face and Bernie could tell he looked unhappy. And from the frown on his face, meant business. Monday morning at 10, you remember where I live? Sly nodded yes. Sly didn't sleep much that night. At 6 a.m. Sunday morning he finally gave up trying, got up, showered, and drove to Golden for breakfast. He knew Saturday nights were long ones at the club for Amy, and that she would want to sleep in, so he waited longer than he wanted to before going to her apartment. How did the tournament go? Did Bernie win? Amy asked when Sly arrived at 10:30. He didn't get to play because he hadn't registered in advance. So we went to a pool hall in Glendale near Shotgun Willie's and played for a couple of hours, Sly said. He waited to see if she would react to the mention of the strip club, but she said nothing. After that, we drove back to Idaho Springs. How did you do? Did you win any money playing? Amy asked with a yawn. Not enough to talk about, Sly answered. Knowing that Amy was skeptical about Bernie, he decided not to mention he had bailed him out of his losses the night before. They spent the afternoon and evening relaxing and falling asleep watching TV. After 18-hour days studying and in class, and 3 days straight working, Amy needed rest and downtime. And Sly needed to catch up on the sleepless night spent thinking about Bernie and the $2,000 he was out. When they awoke Monday morning, Amy said, I need to hit the books first thing this week, so could we do what you have planned for us early today? Maybe get me back here between 3 and 4? Sure, I have nothing special going on for us if you want to spend the whole day on schoolwork. No, I want to spend part of the day with you, even if it is just hanging out. Okay, I need to stop by Bernie's house in Evergreen to pick something up, then we can do whatever you'd like, Sly said. At 10 o'clock they pulled up in front of Bernie's parents' house. It was an upscale Tudor-style two-story nestled in pine trees on a wealthy cul-de-sac in the outskirts of Evergreen. I may be a few minutes, I need to talk to Bernie's dad about something, Sly said. Sure, I brought a book, take your time. Sly rang the doorbell and waited. No one came immediately to the door. A couple of minutes passed, and he rang it again. Still no answer. Questions about what had gone down at the pool hall and a sense of panic and anger were building up in him. He rang the bell with several rapid pushes. Then the door opened, and a woman stared at him through the glass storm door. What is it you want? Read the sign, no soliciting here, she said. Sorry, ma'am, I didn't mean to be rude. I'm Sly Malone, a friend of Bernie's, he's expecting me. Who? Sly Malone. No, not you, who are you looking for? A sinking feeling rushed through Sly's body. Bernie, he said this was his home. Are you his mother? No, and no one by that name lives here. Are you sure you have the right address? Is there another house that looks like this one in the neighborhood? I certainly hope not, this home was custom built for us. I'm sorry, I can't help you further, she said as she closed the door. That didn't take long, Amy said when Sly got back to the car. Sly pulled out his cell phone and tapped on Bernie's name in the directory. There was no answer, the phone kept ringing without going to voicemail. He hung up and tried again with the same result. I might have a problem. There's one more place I need to check out, Sly said as he started the car and put it in gear. 3 of the high school kids that Sly remembered Bernie hanging out with were playing pool when he and Amy entered the Main Street Pool Hall in Evergreen. Hey, guys, look who's here, it's Slick the Stick, one of the boys said. Hi, Mr. Malone, how you been? Okay, I guess. Your name is Kelly, right? Yes, sir. Have you guys seen Bernie? I need to talk to him. The boys nodded no. I tried to find his house, but I must have the wrong address. Do you know where he lives? The 3 teens looked at each other, still shaking their heads no. How about some of his classmates? Anyone I can call to get his address? Classmates? He's not our classmate. He doesn't even go to our school, Kelly said. Is there another high school in Evergreen or close by where he might go? Sly asked. I don't think so. I think he's too old for high school, Kelly said. What makes you think that? Sly asked. 'Cause my sister picked me up one time when he was in here and she knew him. She told me in the car that he comes into the restaurant where she's a waitress a lot, and he is always asking her out, Kelly said. What does that have to do with high school and his age? He's of legal age to drink alcohol. She's seen his driver's license and he's 22. Back in the car, Sly sat with his hands on the wheel, staring out the windshield. What's going on, Sly? What does all that business about Bernie not being a high school student mean? Amy asked. Sly started laughing. Well, I'll be damned if the little bastard didn't hustle the hustler, he said. Amy finished the summer semester of law school the first week of August, and the fall semester did not start until the final week of the month. At Sly's suggestion, they rented an RV and headed west to explore Yosemite and the California coastline. When I was a kid, my family would hit the road every summer and tent camp in different places all over the West. I was a real tomboy back then. We had great fun, Amy said as she stepped on the gas and pulled the RV onto the I-70 westbound ramp. I'm glad you're driving this beast. I've never been camping in my life. If you're expecting me to start a fire or something, I won't know how to begin, Sly said. It's not a beast. It's no harder than driving a school bus or a U-Haul truck, and don't worry, you're in good hands. Just sit back and enjoy the view, Amy said. Yosemite was its normal summertime traffic jam. Their days were spent trudging around following everyone else to see the sights, then driving back to the top of the valley at night to campgrounds that looked and felt more like strip mall parking lots. After 2 days, they drove northwest to the coast and worked their way south, camping as close to the Pacific as they could. At the start of the second week, they both began to unwind and enjoy themselves. Sly even learned how to build a campfire on the beach, and they wrapped themselves fireside in a blanket and made love under the stars to the sound of the breakers. Afterward, they talked. When you told me about your family taking annual camping trips, it brought back memories of my childhood. I spent most of my vacations and free time indoors with my grandfather. He was a championship pool player in the days when playing and watching pool was something of a national pastime. He knew Minnesota Fats and Willie Mosconi, to name a few, but he never became as famous as they did. They were household names. Pool players who loomed large, lived big, and self-promoted their oversized egos and reputations. Ace shooters who thought nothing of playing for thousands of dollars per game, and their opponents and the public believed they were going to win every time. They weren't hustlers, they were even too big for that. They were men among boys at the pool tables, and every game was meant to be a lesson in humility for their opponents. My granddaddy, on the other hand, preferred the shadows to the limelight and liked to be thought of as a B player and an underdog. But that was his genius. No one expected him to win all the time, and while he could have, he was content to win 70% of the time and lose the rest. He used to tell me that people don't like to be embarrassed by their opponents. There's an acceptable amount of losing they will tolerate as long as they win some of the time. The fun in gambling is not all about winning as much as it is about the challenge of playing the game and coming close. It's the story they like to tell after the match. You never hear anyone talking about being routed, but lose to Jack Nicklaus or Tom Watson in match play when either one was up 3 with 2 to play. Now that's a loss anybody would be proud to brag about. So, that's how you got started, and is that your secret to hustling pool for a living? Amy asked. Yeah, I guess I never found anything I was better at or liked to do more. Do you think it is your life's work, or do you have other dreams and plans for the future? She asked. Sly gave her a quizzical look as he twisted the cap off a beer and handed it to her. What are you getting at? He asked. I'm just trying to figure out where we are going as a couple. Then, yeah, I'm good with my life right now. I'm making a decent living, don't have any worries, and I think I'm falling in love with the most beautiful girl I've ever known. How about you? I know you're in law school, but like me, don't you love doing what you're doing without much effort? We both make pretty good money without spending a lot of time working for it. I told you how I found my talent. When did you discover yours? Amy stood and picked up a log and tossed it on the campfire. You're right, it does look like I have been taking the easy path through life so far, but it didn't start that way. In the second semester of my sophomore year in college, my dad died suddenly from a heart attack. He and Mom were already financially strapped trying to help the three of us go to college. One of my sisters quit and went to work, and the other took out loans to finish her degree. I wanted to continue my studies, but didn't want to graduate with a huge debt of student loans, so I decided I'd find a part-time job. Trouble is, college town part-time jobs don't pay enough to keep you in groceries and tuition. One of the bars on the hill in Boulder was having go-go dancing competitions one night a week, so I entered and won $75 a couple of times. Another contestant thought I was good and suggested I talk to the owner of a strip club north of town about working part-time as a dancer and stripper. It didn't take me long to figure out that I could meet all my bills and pay tuition only working weekends. After I graduated, I planned on entering the legitimate job market, but quickly learned that college grads without experience in the business world weren't paid much better than part-time college students. So, I decided to map out a life plan that would let me quit being a stripper and lead me to a lucrative career. That's when I enrolled in law school. At the end of this fall semester, I'll graduate, and 2 months later will be taking the bar exam. As early as next spring, I'll be a lawyer and will have moved on from being a stripper. That's why I need to know what your plans for the future are, Amy said. Sly silently drank his beer and stared at the campfire flames. How does all that change anything? We will still be the same and feel the same about one another, won't we? He said. I'm not sure. I'll be a lawyer, sworn to uphold the law. If you're still hustling and gambling illegally, that can't work with us as a couple. So, you're saying unless I quit playing pool for a living we can't be together? Sly asked. In a nutshell, yes. I've thought about this a lot. It's only a matter of time before your fortunes change. Either you'll get beat up in an alley in some mountain town by one or more of your marks, or you'll get taken by a bigger hustler than you are and lose your bankroll. Now that's not fair, Sly said. Sure, I got in over my head the night we met, and if you hadn't stepped in I could have ended up in the ER getting patched up. And as for Bernie taking me for a couple of grand, that could have happened to anybody that cares about people. The thing is I didn't go all in and he didn't bankrupt me. I could have lost that much on a bad night. That isn't what got you in trouble those 2 times, it was your vanity, Amy said. Your granddaddy might have schooled you on how to stay in the shadows and seem humble, but you sure didn't remember that when the chips were down. But putting that all aside, even if I could avoid the professional fallout of your hustling and its risks, I don't want to worry day in and day out about what might happen to you and how it might negatively impact my private and professional life. Eventually, we both have to accept that what we are doing for a living right now has expiration dates. There are no old strippers. Those who work at it too long end up working the lunch hour at dive bars and putting up with low tips, low wages, and low respect. And your reputation as slick the stick is killing your hustling days in Colorado. That means you either have to leave or move around to places where you are less known or completely unknown, or else you have to stop hustling altogether and find another line of work. I don't know how to do anything else, Sly said. Okay. Then go to school or get some job training. Learn how to do something else. In what? What else do you think I could do? It doesn't matter as long as it's legal. What if you enrolled in school or a technical program this fall? I'm sure this is going to surprise you, but I was never a very good student, no discipline, lazy, hated to study, got bad grades, Sly said as he stood and put his arms around Amy. She rested her head against his chest and they swayed back and forth gently to the sounds of the breakers and the crackling fire. I'm tired, let's go to bed. We can talk more about this tomorrow, she said. The next morning, they awoke early and started their return trip to Colorado. Neither said much for the first couple of hours, then Amy spoke. I want us to be together, Sly. But I have to know you have a plan for the future that can work for both of us, or at least be trying new things like school that will lead you to a new occupation and way of life. Okay, I'll look around when we get back and see what's available, he said. Amy's last semester of law school was well underway when Thanksgiving rolled around. Between studying and cramming for her classes and exams, the number of pre-professional social events at the law school had increased. Preparation for law firm interview fairs at CU was taking time. and thoughts of what areas of the law she might be deficient in when it was time to take the bar exam were all weighing heavily on her mind. She and Sly were not spending as much time together as they used to, and he sometimes complained about it. As promised, he had enrolled in community college and was taking a business and a computer course. She envied the relative easiness of his classes compared to hers, and his casualness about studying and attendance. He always seemed to have time if she asked him to run errands for her or be available for some last-minute event. "How about you spend Thanksgiving at my place in Idaho Springs? You need a break for a couple of days from your surroundings," Sly offered. "Do you know how to cook anything?" Amy asked. "I don't need to know how. We will go out, or I'll have dinner catered." When she got to Sly's place on Thanksgiving morning, he was racing around straightening the house trailer up. "How did midterms go?" she asked. "Midterms?" "Yes, you know, midterm exams." "Oh, yeah, fine I guess," Sly said. "Have you seen the results?" "No, I think they said next week. Look, I've got to go pick up our meal from the deli. The parades are on TV if you want to watch them." Amy switched on the set and leaned back in the recliner. That's when she saw 2 textbooks sitting on the corner of the TV. She went over and picked one of them up. It was new and looked as though it had never been opened. A sales receipt was peeking out of the top of the book. She opened the cover and looked at it and the book underneath. They were purchased at the community college bookstore in September. The other book was also new and looked unopened. She heard Sly's car pull up outside, and she returned to the recliner and sat down just as he came in the front door. "Forgot my wallet," he said. "Oh, hey, I read in the newspaper that some colleges have abandoned textbooks in favor of web-based curriculum and the internet. Because the textbooks are out of date by the time they get through editing, publishing, and distribution. I'm curious, is that happening in your classes?" Amy asked. "Nope, nobody said anything about the internet to me. We're using the books." The next week, Amy called the community college admissions office and pretended she was a lawyer for the sheriff's office. "We have a subpoena. We are having trouble finding the party to serve with it. Can you tell me his class schedule so one of our deputies can serve him? His name is Sly Malone." "I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't show anyone by that name currently enrolled here." "Do you know if he withdrew?" "No, I don't see that he was ever a student here." That Sunday night, Sly returned from a rewarding trip to Aspen, where he was paid $2,500 for playing Hollywood celebrities in a charity event, and another $1,500 hustling in the evenings in the Roaring Fork Valley. The King of the Green is back. "Boy, did I miss you," Sly said as he grabbed Amy around the waist, whirled her around, and gave her a big kiss. After Amy cleared away the dinner dishes, she sat down at the table with Sly and said, "Something has come to my attention that I need to ask you about." "Shoot," Sly said. "I checked with the college about your enrollment and they don't have a record of you being a student there. What's going on?" Sly gave her a sour look. "Don't you mean you've been spying on me? Have you been following me around too?" "Right, Sly, I've got all kinds of time to do that, don't I?" she said. "There's a perfectly reasonable explanation about this. All you had to do was ask me. I tried that at Thanksgiving in a roundabout way, if you remember, but you decided to mislead me." "Okay, what if I did?" "I told you in August that I wasn't student material, but you insisted on trying to make me into a mini-you," he said. "No, I thought we had an understanding about our relationship going forward. I can't have a hustler or con man for a boyfriend or husband after I become a lawyer. And I don't want to stop being who I am," Sly said. "Then our choices have been made. I have worked too hard getting to this point in my life. And with graduation and the bar exam coming up, I can't let your unwillingness to be on board with my plans take my energy and determination away from my desire to achieve my goals. Ever since Thanksgiving, I've suspected there was something like this wrong, and now that I know you're not willing to change, it's clear we have no future together and can't go on," Amy said.